Hi, my name is Eric Levine, and the paper I'm going to talk about is an evaluation of game controllers and tablets as controllers for interactive TV applications. The problem space that this paper is looking at is interactive TV. And so that's the concept of bringing apps onto our television sets. And so these apps would provide various internet services like video, music, weather, and games. But the problem with these are that they often bring more complex interactions than what our remote controls were designed for. So the typical remote control doesn't really always work well with them. And the question that the researchers were trying to answer is, would modern video game controllers like the Kinect and the Wiimote on the right here, or tablets, would those provide a better match with these interactive TV applications? One question that the paper answered pretty well is, why care about interactive TV? And I think it's pretty apparent that interactive TV not only has the potential to grow very large, but I think it already is taking off quite a bit. So on the one side, you have the large popularity of already watching videos on the internet. For YouTube itself, globally you have 4 billion videos being watched every day on that site. And then services like YouTube are already available on your TV set in a variety of ways. So there are low-cost devices like Roku and Apple TV that you could plug into any television set, and it'll bring YouTube, Netflix, Hulu to your television. Also, a lot of televisions are already being built with these services included, as well as Blu-ray players have them quite often these days. And then gaming consoles as well have them built in. And in a 2011 study, Nielsen found that 50% of Netflix users were watching Netflix through their gaming consoles. And with 162 million Americans owning a game console, it's just a huge market that's already out there for these kind of interactive television applications. The paper also included a lot of different related works and studies. A couple of the interesting ones, there was one study that compared the Wiimote in terms of performance for pointing and navigation against a traditional gaming pad, and it found that the Wiimote had a 75% performance increase when it came to speed and accuracy. Also, they talked about some different areas of work related to text entry using alternatives to keyboards, one being Two-Stick, which was developed to take advantage of the two joysticks on an Xbox controller and to give a new way to do text input. And through this method, they're able to realize a slight increase in words per minute over a selection-style keyboard. So the methodology for the design of the experiment itself, the researchers settled on 4 different input methods. So the Microsoft Xbox Kinect, which uses a camera to observe participants in the room and let you use gestures without actually holding anything. They took the Nintendo Wiimote, which connects through Bluetooth and has sensors in it, so as the user moves the device through space, the Wiimote through space, it'll report back its location. And then the other 2 were using the same hardware, a 10-inch Android tablet, but they applied it in a scrolling mode, which works similar to the trackpad on your laptop, where as you touch the screen, it's reflected on the television set, or mirroring mode, where the display of the television also showed up on the tablet itself, and as you interacted with the tablet, it would affect things on the television set. They also wound up either creating or modifying existing software to collect the quantitative data from each device. And then they used questionnaires and interviews to capture more of the qualitative side of the data. For the actual experiment themselves, the researchers emulated a living room, and they had two participants in the room at one time just to kind of give the feel of watching TV with someone else, but the participants performed their tasks independently of each other. And there were two primary tasks. One was to take an object on the screen and drag and drop it into a particular zone on the set. And then the other was to navigate a media interface and perform several different operations, and doing text entry was part of that, so looking up the weather in a certain city, for example. And the results of this work are broken down into a few different areas. So one, the primary task was drag and drop, because this involved selection, movement, and accuracy all in one. And you could see from the chart at the top that the mirrored tablet wound up performing the best, but the Wiimote and the Relative really weren't that far behind. But overall, the Kinect really was way worse than all of these. The researchers also coined a phrase called nudging, and they used this to describe a behavior that they saw participants doing to compensate for devices that gave them very good speed but not great accuracy. So for something like the Wiimote, the users kind of homed in on their target, and what they found was that this nudging technique actually worked very well. So this is something they felt worth taking into account for people who are going to design input devices that, to kind of account for nudging and allow it to happen. They also found that the tablets did the best overall with text entry. You could see at the charts below that entry time was pretty close between the tablets and the Wiimote, but accuracy was much better with the Relative tablet. The Mirrored and Wiimote weren't too far behind, but the Kinect was way worse with it. When it came to reviewing the questionnaire and the interview data, one thing that really stood out to me was that 76% of the users complained about the sensitivity of the Relative tablet. So they mentioned that the sensitivity was so low that they would have had to do several swipes across it to make the cursor move from one side of the television set to the other. And the authors pointed out, they knew that they recognized that this was a flaw, but they made a good point that it didn't invalidate the results of the Relative tablet, because the users weren't typically asked to make such large movements across the screen. And in the data, the Relative tablet still performed very, very well. Something else, though, only 13% of the participants came away with positive comments about the Relative tablet. So that also could be due to the sensitivity issue. It could also just be due to the fact that they're used to using that sort of interaction with their laptops. Maybe they're kind of bored with it, and things like the Wiimote and the Kinect are a bit more novel as far as that goes. For myself, there's a couple things that stood out as being confusing. In the relevant studies section, the authors listed a lot of different studies and prior work, but they really failed a lot of time to answer the so what question. They didn't always give the results of those particular studies, and they didn't always tie them into their particular work. The other slightly confusing part were found in the section where they discuss nudging. The charts in there I found were very hard to interpret and really relate to the text in that section. But overall, it was a pretty clear paper, well written. So, as a result of this work, the authors didn't necessarily create anything innovative, but they point out that they couldn't find of any prior research that studied the use of these kinds of input devices for interactive TV. So they really felt this paper and experiment kind of laid the groundwork for it. And from it, they concluded that these kinds of gaming input devices and tablets do have the potential to be effective for this purpose. And given what I feel is a very well thought out and set up experiment, they did a good job of collecting and analyzing data. I think it's a very valid conclusion that they came to. And then as a result of doing this, they identified several additional areas of research that could improve upon these particular devices they used. So trying to get a better balance between the Wiimote's speed and accuracy, improving the acceleration of the relative tablet, and also participants complained about lag between the mirrored tablet and the television set itself, so reducing that lag would help it perform better. Overall, I found this work to be something that's very relevant and relatable. I have these kinds of apps on my television set at home and experience some of the pain of using a regular remote with them. So I thought it was very interesting work, and it really seemed to be very well done. Thank you.